The boss barged in on the confession scene and snatched the 99 roses I gave to the senior. He pinched the love letter and stepped on the roses, tears in his eyes, accusing me. No wonder you didn't make our relationship public, you've been keeping another guy on the side. Can you handle that? How did my resignation letter turn into a love letter? After being William's secretary for 5 years, I had grown stronger. Finally, when William asked me to rush to his villa in the middle of the night, I sent him my resignation letter instead. Did you not see the letter I gave you? I asked hopefully, still groggy from sleep, waiting for William's response. All I heard was some deep breaths on the other end of the phone, then hesitantly William asked, Emily, are you serious? What's not serious about resigning? Did he want to keep exploiting me as his employee? My drowsiness vanished in an instant, and I pleaded with William excitedly. Boss, I wrote it seriously. You can't refuse me. If you reject me, my life is over. I imagined the miserable scene of toiling under William for the rest of my life, to the point that I started crying. If you don't approve, boss, I don't know how I'll go on. With a trembling voice on the phone, he cautiously asked, is this really what you want? But it's too soon. Not soon, boss, I've been by your side for 5 years. In the end, the boss agreed to my resignation. As for overtime? I resigned. Why would I still work overtime? That night, I slept until noon the next day. Days without work are great. I put on a full makeup look before going to the office. During my years at work, I went barefaced every day. The company wasn't worth my makeup. I went straight to my desk, packed my things. There were some work items and colleagues to hand over. Before I finished packing, I felt a burning gaze on me. I looked up, and William was staring at me intently. After a brief eye contact, his cheeks turned slightly red. Then I received a message from him: come in. I set down my things, pushed open the door to his office. As soon as I entered, he adjusted the office's French windows to a white color that made the outside invisible. After scanning my face with his eyes, he blurted out with a red face, you look beautiful today. I immediately bowed apologetically. Boss, you're kidding, you look handsome today as well. Nervously clenching his fists, he opened a drawer and took out a box, saying, this is for you. You don't have to call me boss. Don't call you boss. William was strangely red today. Just call me by my name, Emily. William's gentle call made me tremble all over, and I shakily responded to William, William. William, being kind-hearted, gave me a necklace as a farewell gift. That night, I wore the necklace and made plans to celebrate my resignation with my senior Lucas. Lucas is such a great guy, he said he would come pick me up. I waited downstairs at the company, expecting Lucas, but William arrived instead with his hands in his pockets. Surprisingly gentle, he said, let me take you home. I looked around and saw it was only me there. William, this isn't good for the company. After a moment of contemplation, he nodded, okay, I'll wait for you at home. As he spoke, Lucas' car was already downstairs, and he called me. As I answered the call, excitedly running towards Lucas' car, I didn't hear what William said. Lucas kindly fastened my seatbelt, and at an inappropriate time, I got a call from William. It was my first solo date with Lucas. I was so happy that I had a few too many drinks, and ended up walking a bit unsteadily. I accidentally stumbled into Lucas' arms. His eyes sparkled, and I grasped his arm, tiptoeing gently. Just a little closer, and I could kiss Lucas' soft lips. But my phone wouldn't stop ringing. It ruined the romantic atmosphere. Lucas tapped my phone case, stuttering, Emily, this Noisy seems urgent. Noisy was my nickname for William. I scratched my head in annoyance, left Lucas' warm embrace, and answered William's call. Who are you with? You leave the company and go eat fried chicken? In a resentful tone, William's voice came through the phone. Startled, I looked around in horror. How did he know I was eating fried chicken? I burped defensively, boss, I'm just networking. You're calling me that unceremoniously now? Right now, come home immediately. No, listen to my explanation, don't be hasty. Under the former boss' coercion, I apologized to Lucas and hurried back home. The hallway was pitch black, with a faint smell of alcohol. Just as I opened the door, a large hand wrapped around me from behind. I jumped in fright, shrieking and stomping my feet, "Get lost. I have a boyfriend, and he's strong." But the man behind me just hummed arrogantly, saying, "Your boyfriend is sulking right now, he won't come out to help you." Wasn't that William's voice? I elbowed him in the chest, leaped off him, and turned on the lights. I finally saw William's face clearly, with suspicious blush on his cheeks and inexplicable tears in his eyes, staring at me as if he had 1,000 grievances. "Do I make you so uncomfortable? You'd rather go meet those shady people than stay with me in the company. Who wants to stay in the company except the boss? It's not shady people, it's Lucas, he's a good person." William hung his head on my shoulder, then bit me. "William." I pushed him against the door frame. He froze, then burst into tears, saying with a sob, "Not only did you defend that man, you also pushed me." "No, it's not true," William hiccuped. I realized that William was going crazy because of alcohol. Out of loyalty to my former secretary, I helped William to the sofa and helped him take off his suit jacket reeking of alcohol. His figure was not bad, and I found myself a bit tempted. I swallowed hard and handed him a loose Peppa Pig pajama from the wardrobe. There were some accidental touches on certain soft spots, and William closed his eyes and hummed slightly, his face rubbing against my arm like a little puppy, quite cute. The next morning when I woke up, I saw William sleeping next to me. I kicked him off the bed in horror. There's nothing more terrifying than waking up and finding yourself in bed with your former boss. William got up, blushing, quickly covered me with a blanket, and apologized, "I'm sorry about last night, I'll make it up to you." He quickly walked out. Later that day, I received a 10,000 yuan transfer in my salary card. By the way, our company's group chat was in an uproar. Am I blind? The boss actually showed up wearing a Peppa Pig dress. Can I catch up by giving the boss a maid outfit as a gift? The photo of William, with his hair standing up and wearing a Peppa Pig nightgown over a suit and black pants below, had instantly flooded the chat. I accidentally sent it to William. Do you like it? I've bought several sets of the same. I can show you tonight. Did he really have to be so ambiguous like this? I don't believe you. Show me your legs in black stockings. The next moment, William video called me. He covered the camera and slyly revealed half of his leg. I looked left and right, and seeing no one around, I zoomed in and looked at it. William was blushing and shyly showed me his legs in black stockings, rubbing the hem of the maid costume. I covered my nose bleeding and murmured, "Amen." On the phone, William said intermittently, "Thank you for last night." After much thought, I realized that since he had stayed overnight at my place, he considered himself mine. "I'll move in today." There was a knock on the door. I opened it, and a group of strong men started moving various things into my house. I hurriedly exclaimed to William, "No, it can't be like this, William. This doesn't count. I've worked overnight at your villa more times before. Yes, I've stayed up too late. I should have moved in earlier. Good news, someone paid my rent. Bad news, I ended up living with my former boss. He even wanted to post about moving into social media, but I sternly stopped him. If my colleagues found out that I was living with my boss, I'd be so ashamed. Emily, why don't you want others to know about me? Have I done something wrong? Do I need to wear my daytime outfit?" I sighed and pushed William, whom I had moved away in pity, away, and he went to my master bedroom holding the bedding. Finally, I ended up sleeping on the floor, only to be carried to the bed by someone. The boss was too gentle with me, and it was terrifying. I told my best friend about William's recent strange behavior. After some logical analysis and deductive reasoning, Gina came to a terrifying conclusion: William liked me deeply, to the point where he didn't even care about status. You can't shake off this boss of yours. Unless you have a real boyfriend to back you up. A boyfriend? Right, I used to have a potential boyfriend. I held 99 roses bought from the flower shop in one hand and a love letter for Lucas in the other. Lucas was wearing clothes in the same color scheme as me today. I couldn't help but feel a sense of joy. Lucas tilted his head and smiled at me. Why did you bring a bouquet of roses today? Is it heavy? Let me help you with that. His gentle words fluttered over my heart like feathers. Shyly, I raised my head to look at Lucas's attractive features and handed him the love letter. Lucas easily opened the love letter. After a moment, Lucas gently touched my head, smiling apologetically. Emily, I would love to accept your resignation, but unfortunately, I'm not your boss. Resignation? I raised my head suddenly, took back the letter, and realized I had handed the wrong letter to William that day. It was actually the love letter I had written for Lucas. No wonder William said such strange things. He mistook himself for my boyfriend. Holding the resignation letter, my hand involuntarily trembled before I could fully grasp what was happening. A dark figure rushed between me and Lucas, snatched the roses from my arms, and angrily threw them to the ground. My flowers. I saw clearly that it was my fake boyfriend William. He glared at me with red eyes, then turned to Lucas and sneered, "Not going home at this hour. Turns out you're here dating other men." Lucas tapped William's shoulder, trying to say something, but was met with a cold stare. William muttered something under his breath, though I couldn't catch it. Anyway, Lucas was innocent. I pulled Lucas over and stood in front of him, shielding him. "William, we can discuss our issues later. Please don't target Lucas like this." Hearing my words, he remained silent, pursing his lips in protest. After a while, he looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "Emily, what do you mean? Are you going against me for a man?" He glanced at Lucas, holding a love letter in his hand, and sarcastically laughed. "No wonder you didn't make our relationship public. You also have another man on the side. Can you handle both?" His words were full of sadness, as if he had truly been abandoned by me, sincerely misplaced. I reached out to grab William's hand, but he dodged my touch. "You don't have to go through the trouble. You can openly keep your Lucas. You have enough on your plate," he said, sniffing, and then turned and walked away without a trace of hesitation. I watched him walk away, wanting to follow him but not knowing what to say. Should I tell him I don't like him, that the love letter was for Lucas, not him? "Is he the one you like?" Lucas's familiar voice sounded above me. He handed me the rose bouquet that William had flattened. "No, he's not." Lucas put the roses back in my hand and chuckled. "Why do you care so much, Emily?" I took a deep breath, gathered my courage and poured out the words I hadn't finished that night. "Lucas, the person I like is actually you." I held the flattened roses up to Lucas' chest. Lucas looked at me and chuckled, bending down to be level with me. His beautiful peach blossom eyes gazed straight into mine. "But Emily, I don't see affection in your eyes. Do you really like me, or are you just used to me?" I was speechless. Lucas had always helped me a lot with my studies and work. I had indeed become accustomed to having Lucas around to help me with my questions and problems. It seemed Emily still had a lot to learn about love. The ultimate result of this confession was that I not only failed to turn Lucas into my official boyfriend, but I also lost my bootleg boyfriend. When I got home, the moving company was working overtime to move William's luggage. I ran into the house in a panic with the unsent roses in my hand and collided with William as he was pulling out his luggage. "You're moving? Why didn't you tell me?" William grabbed the luggage handle tightly, his knuckles turning white. "At least let's talk. 5 minutes, that's all you have." He gestured for the workers to leave. It was just the two of us in the large room. "Do I have to move away?" "You have 4.5 minutes. At that moment, my heart raced, and I broke out in a sweat. I didn't cheat, I accidentally submitted the love letter meant for Lucas instead of my resignation letter. "So, you're saying I took Lucas' place?" I was usually good with words, but facing William, I somehow twisted my words in this way. I opened my mouth to speak but couldn't find the words. 1 minute left. I didn't care anymore. I handed the roses to William, pleading softly, "William, please don't be angry." William glanced at the roses, chuckled coldly, then dropped them to the floor. "You trying to placate me with someone else's leftovers?" "Emily, I'm not that desperate. Time's up." With that, he walked out, pulling his luggage downstairs. I slumped on the couch, hearing the movers busily moving things. I had lost my chance. After William left, the room felt empty. When I lived here alone, I never realized how big and empty this room was. Brushing my teeth alone in front of the mirror, I imagined William smiling silly with toothpaste foam around his mouth. Using a curling iron, I heard William's voice in my ear. "You look beautiful even without curls. Is your elaborate hairstyle for me?" Even when I was eating instant noodles with my hair tied up, I thought of William. I remembered him fastening my hair with a hair tie. William. Though he was gone, he was everywhere. I was probably going crazy. Online, they said I had a lovesickness. I didn't believe it. How could someone fall in love with their exploitative capitalist? Before I knew it, I found myself standing at the entrance of William's apartment complex. The security guard at the entrance warmly pulled me inside, saying, "Emily, you haven't been working overtime here for a long time. I thought you had resigned." In a blink of an eye, I was dragged to the front of William's villa by the security guard. Luckily, it was nighttime, so I wasn't very noticeable on my own. I awkwardly watched the security guard walk away. William's house was closed. Given my current relationship with him, I definitely couldn't enter through the front door. I roamed around, assessing the situation, and decided to climb over the wall. I propped a stone at the corner, both arms resting on the wall, struggling to squeeze my upper body inside. Just halfway up, I was already exhausted, almost half paralyzed on the wall, legs dangling outside, arms flailing inside, and head hanging heavily with my hair. Just as I was about to gather strength to continue climbing, a flash of lightning struck my face. "Who's there?" I squinted and looked up, and it was William. He was only wearing a black silk robe, with a wide-open collar. He couldn't help but swallow nervously. "It's me, boss. Your cute secretary." William's initially surprised expression faded, and he coldly corrected me, "Former secretary." He was still mad at me. I waved my hand at him and pouted, "Boss, I can't get down. Can you, please, help me?" William crossed his arms and shook his head, saying, "No." He turned away. I hadn't expected William to refuse, so when I made this request, I began to jump down. I thought I would end up landing face down on the ground, but a large figure cushioned my fall. I was facing a delicate pink flower. It was pink. I poked it with my finger. It got stiff. William rushed to catch my action, making his already loose robe even more revealing. I awkwardly smirked at William, lifted myself up from his soft chest, straightened his clothes to cover the boss's modesty. Only then did William, reddening, stand up, tightly guarding his collar with both hands. A bit cute. Rogue. I then realized I had drooled over the beauty. William quickly walked towards the house. I followed closely behind him. As soon as my left foot crossed the threshold, William closed the door. "Boss, you really won't let me in? I only came for you." His response was simply 3 words, "You're a stinky rogue." I'm not a rogue, really. I could only squat outside the door, gazing at the dark night sky where even the stars were paired up. I was still thinking of ways to deceive my way in. Luckily, heavy rain poured outside suddenly. The rain quickly soaked my hair ends. I looked at the room with lights on. If William still liked me, he wouldn't bear to see me get soaked in the rain. The rain dampened all my clothes, soaking me completely. I stubbornly stood outside. I watched the lights go off and on, but no shadow was visible. Perhaps he had already given up on me, having no trace of me in his heart. I staggered and walked towards outside. The next moment, a large umbrella hit my head. I turned and saw William, with a cold face, holding the umbrella towards me. He did care about me. I blinked and cuddled into William's arms. "Let's go in." "No." I clung to William like a koala, and reluctantly, he had to hold the umbrella and lead me inside. After he closed the door with difficulty, he raised an eyebrow and looked down at me. "You can get down now." Feeling embarrassed, I jumped off him. During the brief walk, I clearly heard our heart's rapid symphony. One was William's, the other was mine. At 11:45 p.m. on July 20, 2024, I was sure William still liked me. But more importantly, I was certain that I had lovesickness. William threw a white towel over my head, then casually scrubbed my hair. His voice cold and proud, he warned me, "Dry yourself, don't dirty my home." I pulled the towel back, revealing my big eyes blinking at him holding his loose robe. I cooed, "William, can you help me dry off?" He glared at me fiercely, clenching his fists, frozen in place. "Emily, how long are you going to play with me?" "As you please when you're in the mood, and throwing me aside when you're not." "Emily, I'm not a puppy." He vented his dissatisfaction with me, filled with anger. I grabbed his robe, climbed up bit by bit, and apologetically said, "William, I never treated you like a dog." He smacked my hand away and stared at me tearfully, full of despair. "Don't call me a dog. I'm not a dog. Emily, you don't really like me." I hurriedly grabbed his wrist, pressed him against the wall, and under confusion, the towel on my head fell to the ground. I raised my tiptoes and quickly kissed William. "I do like you, William. Really like you." I was about to kiss him again, but he covered my mouth and his eyes, deep and dark, uttered two words, "Liar." Anxiously, I pushed his hand away, gripping him tightly. "I'm not lying, I really truly like you." William looked somewhat moved, silently looking at me. I checked my phone, it was exactly midnight. I sincerely looked up at William, his face reflected in my pupils. "William, at 12 o'clock on July 20, 2024, I'm sure I like you. I want you to be my boyfriend. If I'm lying, I'm a dog." William stood still against the wall, letting me massage his face. Bending slightly towards me, I lifted my foot to touch his head and kissed him heavily, claiming a bit of William. But when William realized, he bit me hard, and the metallic taste spread in my mouth. I grimaced in pain, wanting to scold William, yet fearing he'd say he wasn't a dog. "Rogue." William scolded me again. "Who's the rogue?" He bent down, his handsome face magnified in front of my eyes. Seduction, it was a blatant provocation. "The wet clothes are drying up and getting quite warm." I tried to flirt with William by hooking my arms around his neck, but he calmly pulled them away and asked if I really liked him. I bit his shoulder in frustration and asked if he was even a man since I had invited him to be my boyfriend, and he was still indecisive. "Just forget it." But the next moment, William firmly pulled me back and declared that he would be my boyfriend. He kissed me passionately, and as I struggled to catch my breath, I responded to his affection. He then teasingly asked why I wasn't catching my breath yet, which annoyed me and made me glare at him. I found myself exhausted and laid on him, breathing heavily. He carried me to the bed and fetched some clothes from the wardrobe. I took a picture of him with my phone and posted on social media, "A diligent boyfriend." The comments poured in, but before I could read them, William snatched my phone and awkwardly handed it back to me. Refused and playfully wrestled with him to get it back, ending up in his arms. He was burning hot. I jokingly asked if he was feeling the heat, and he blushed, asking me not to look. I laughed, grabbed my clothes, and headed to the bathroom. When I came back out, William was already under the covers, pretending to sleep. Quietly, I slipped under the covers and hugged him from behind, feeling his warmth and stiff body. I lightly teased him on his back, whispering in his ear to sleep as I wouldn't disturb him. Since William agreed to be my boyfriend, my former colleagues congratulated me heartily. They said that ever since I came, the boss had stopped being a tyrant and was much friendlier. William now kissed me 100 times a day. William's epilogue: I suspect the new secretary at the company likes me. She always sneaks glances at me and tries to hide it with her phone. Well, my charm is irresistible. She may be infatuated, but she works hard, staying on call 24/7 without asking for double overtime pay. When I offered her the master bedroom to rest, she thanked me with sparkling eyes. She was easily captivated by me. However, something felt off about Emily, very off. She kept sneaking more glances at me, and one day, she stormed into my room with a letter in hand. Trembling, I opened it to find a love letter, not a resignation letter. She said she had liked me from the start. I never trailed them, just coincidentally saw them eating fried chicken. Fried chicken isn't that great, beer would have been better. Fine about the food, but why were they sitting so close to each other? That guy had no shame. I called her, and sure enough, being her boyfriend meant something to her. Why did she bring a bunch of roses to meet that guy? She hadn't given me roses. Wasn't I enough? I have principles. Maneuvering to make Emily change her mind turned futile, as she didn't have any feelings for Meth's heartfelt confession I thought I received was Lucas's. The one for me was a resignation letter. So, Emily really didn't like me. But I liked her. Not for being efficient, perhaps for the eye rolls before each overtime, or the sneaky looks when submitting her private expenses for reimbursement, or even for tripping over the doorstep so often when coming in. All quite endearing. But she didn't like me. Emily wanted sunshine like Lucas. I don't want to go back to the villa, it bears Emily's mark. Alone in the office, I drown my thoughts in alcohol. It's just me left at the company. I held an empty wine bottle and called out Emily's name. The bottle in my arms ignored me. I cried and said, "Why don't you like me?" Just when I thought I could forget everything and take care of myself, I suddenly saw Emily's head appear on the wall. Oh no, now I'm having hallucinations. The hallucination even talks. I walked up to the wall, and the little figure on the wall asked me to follow her. I won't be fooled by women again. I was about to leave when Emily jumped down from above. She's crazy. The wall is 2 people taller than her. She pinched herself. The touch felt so real, like a real person. She came to look for me. Is it true? Women are never sincere, she must be after my looks again. How could she not leave no matter how I try to drive her away? It's raining heavily outside. She's still here. Emily is standing in the rain, what an idiot. She's doing this on purpose. She's clinging to me, her whole body against mine. By doing this, does she like me? I looked down at her and she was moving her mouth. She said she likes me. She held on to me and kissed me. If I push a little, I can push her away. But I don't want to push her away, I let her take from me. Emily is really a flirt. How can she get so close to me and ask those questions? I'm a normal man. She's still teasing me, playing with fire with my back to her. She moved closer and with great effort, said she wouldn't touch me. I'll definitely kiss her later, seduce her, see if she can resist.